When I was a kid, I never got to watch Canada at a World Cup. I never got the opportunity to do that, and that was something that I've always wanted. I remember sitting in, my best friend's living room watching the World Cup with him, and both of us wishing that we could watch Canada play. I was at Liverpool, under 18s, and then I remember my dad came out to me one day. I was on my PS in my room, and my dad was like, "You'll call out for Canada." And I was like, "What?" And I couldn't believe it. I was thinking, this is crazy. A surreal moment. I remember turning up there, and I saw a junior, obviously from the past, like that I've watched on TV and stuff, and I was like, wow, this is surreal for me. My family was always keen on hard work. It's a big value of mine that I've had since growing up. I feel like as a Canadian in England, you have to work harder, and you got to be better than the others. If there's an English player who's just as good as you, they're always gonna, most likely push the English kid instead, and that's just kind of how it is. And so throughout my whole life, I've always had to work twice as hard as everyone else. I've always had to, be twice as good as everyone else to prove myself. And that's just a big foundation that my parents laid out for me from when I was young, to always work hard and to give your everything. And my dad is a big influence for me in my life, and he sacrificed his life for me, really. He moved over to England with me to help me chase my goal, chase my dream, quit his job and everything. So a debt to my father that I'll obviously never be able to repay, because he's been able to help me fulfill my dream, and never told me to give up and keep pushing me even when I didn't want to be pushed. And so it's my dad for sure. Honestly, I feel like I took my knee injury pretty well, especially at the beginning. It was my first kind of major injury. I never really had an injury before, and I think the values that my parents instilled in me of working hard, I feel like really shine through in these moments. Obviously when it happened, my first thought process, obviously was to be upset. Obviously it's a very, very tough injury, and I never thought that it would happen to me. You always tell yourself it's never going to happen to me, and when it does happen to you, how are you going to react, right? The last thing I wanted to be was one of those guys who played at a high level, did really well, and then had a knee injury and never got back to the level. That was the last thing that I ever wanted to happen to me. And so I made sure I did everything in my power. I worked as hard as I possibly could. I did everything to the best ability of me, and now I'm here where I am, and couldn't be prouder of myself for how I handled that situation, for sure. I think we've grown a lot. Obviously, 4 years ago, like I said, we had our first ever experience at the World Cup. I think a lot of us, it was our first ever experience at such a high level. I think a lot of us have taken big steps in these last 4 years of playing at a higher level, playing in bigger competitions, experiencing that kind of stuff that's going to help us in the summer. What we've learned is just how to deal, how to adapt, how to win games is the biggest thing, and we're going to try our best to take that on into the tournament for sure. One thing I would like to say is, if you guys are at the game or even in the city at the time when we're playing, please show us nothing but support and good positive vibes. I think it can go a long way. Just giving us your support, cheering us on, letting us know that you're there. If you come watch, support us as much as you can, and we'll try and do our job for you guys.